Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Greg Kimball, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Rosalie Warren. We warmly welcome the family of Corporal Raymond Joseph Colenso, whose story will be told shortly. We're honoured to acknowledge Air Marshal Leo Davies, Chief of Air Force Australia, and Mrs. Rhonda Davies, Mrs. Mary Slade, Board Director of the Melbourne Jewish Holocaust Centre, and the accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family, visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, Western Public School, Western. From South Australia, Jamestown Community School, Secondary Department, Jamestown. From Victoria, Good Shepherd Lutheran School, Croydon. Ararat West Primary School, Ararat, and from Western Australia, Manjimup Senior High School, Manjimup. Please stand and join in singing the Australian National Anthem. Students, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entry to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths of floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Corporal Raymond Joseph Colenso. Raymond Colenso was born on the 10th of June 1919 in the Sydney suburb of Paddington, one of 8 children born to William and Winifred Colenso. Known as Ray to his family and friends, he attended St Michael's School in Daceyville and later worked in the Kuba hat factory. After persuading his parents to allow him to enlist to serve for Australia in the war, he and his 3 older brothers, Bill, Frank and Ted, joined up together so that they could look out for one another. They enlisted on the 15th of June 1940, and the 4 Colenso brothers are assigned and served with consecutive service numbers. Our younger brother Les was too young to enlist. The 4 brothers joined the 2nd 18th Battalion, following in their father's footsteps. William Colenso had served in the 18th Battalion of the 1st Australian Imperial Force during the First World War. Raymond Colenso and his brothers spent 6 months training around Sydney and Bathurst. On the 1st of February 1941, they set sail from Sydney Harbour, bound for Singapore. Not long before leaving Australia, Raymond, a keen poet, wrote the following lines of verse for his mother. Although I know it hurts you to see your son depart, I can but assure you that you'll always own my heart. And when the test comes, mother, from fire, bomb and gun, it's through I'll come because I am your loving son. Raymond and his 3 brothers disembarked at Singapore on the 17th of February 1941, but did not stay on the island, instead moving north to spend 1941 training in the steamy tropical conditions of the Malay Peninsula. The 2nd 18th Battalion moved around the Malay Peninsula. Throughout 1941, they trained at Port Dickson, Seremban and Jaralang, and at the end of 1941, as Japanese forces began their rapid advance through Southeast Asia, were stationed at Mersing on the east coast. The base at Mersing did not come under immediate Japanese assault, but the troops stationed there expected action as they were close to Singapore. Over the New Year's period of 1941 and 1942, they noticed increased sighting of Japanese aircraft, especially reconnaissance planes. Japanese success on the west of the Malay Peninsula posed a threat to the flanks of the Australian position. So on the 17th of January, the battalion withdrew from well-fortified Mersing to Gemalang, further to the south. On the 27th of January, the 2nd 18th Battalion conducted a successful ambush of advancing Japanese forces at Nistao near Gemalang. The engagement, however, was not decisive, and the battalion withdrew further south to Singapore. Here, the battalion was tasked with defending a sector of Singapore's northwest coast, when, on the 8th of February, the outnumbered and overstretched Australians came under an intense mortar and artillery barrage. During the 16-hour-long barrage, one company reported an average of 55 shells falling per minute on the section that they were defending. The bombardment was followed by a major Japanese landing in which Australian forces were completely overrun. The Colenso brothers were all caught in this terrible attack. Ted and Frank were captured and became prisoners of war to the Japanese. They would be released in 1945 after 4 long years of captivity. But Raymond and his older brother Bill would not return. In the initial confusion of the attack and the subsequent loss of Singapore, they were reported missing, but were later confirmed to have been killed in action. Bill on the 11th of February, Raymond on the 9th. As the brothers were initially reported missing, the family did not learn of their fate for many years. When his family received letters from the 2 surviving brothers, now prisoners of war, in September 1943, their mother said, "I'm just praying for the next mail about the other 2 boys. I never gave up hope." The following is a poem written by Colenso in the year before his death. In dreams I often travel to the land I know so well. In sleep I find much comfort, despite the shot and shell. Pleasant dream, old cobber, on watch I'll take my turn. Though while awake we quell it, our hearts for home do yearn. Raymond Colenso was 22 years old. His remains lie in the Kranji War Cemetery in Singapore. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed beside the pool of reflection. You will see him in the back on the left. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Corporal Raymond Joseph Colenso, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.